Welcome back, ladies and gents. Tonight, myself, Greg, and Matty are joined by a special guest. We've got Ivor with us tonight, who was one of the founding members of AFC Wimbledon, as we know them today, and is a commercial director at the club. So, thanks so much for joining us, Ivor. Really appreciate it, mate.
It's a pleasure, chaps. I like what you're doing, so I'm pleased to be here.
Top man. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So before we sort of get into the mayhem that is your AFC Wimbledon story, mate, I just want to go through a couple of just basic questions just to get to know you better. So first things first, who was your childhood hero?
Dickie Guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's now our club president. Yeah.
Was it anything to do with what he done against my club, Leeds United?
Absolutely. I already loved him by then. I used to stand behind him and go and take the piddle out of him then, and I do the same now in adult life. And I always loved the man, and now I'm very lucky that my boyhood hero is one of my best friends.
Brilliant.
It's a dreamland for me.
Yeah, not many people can say that, mate.
No, I'm very lucky indeed.
What's your favourite childhood football memory?
Oh, well, I mean, going up to has to be the first season, 1974-75. You have the cup run that culminated in Leeds. That has to be it. Winning the Southern League, the London Senior Cup, the Southern League that year. All of a sudden, I've gone from following this team where nobody was interested a couple of years before and the year before to all of a sudden we're playing Leeds in front of 45,000 people up there and 45,000 people back at Plough Lane. I bunked off for school for the first time in my life to go to that game. Part of a massive downfall. And so that as a childhood memory, that was that whole season has to be it, really culminating in that we had an early kickoff because there was something special on, and we had to win the league, and we won the league, and like a big crowd of us. I thought it was hundreds and thousands, but it was probably about 40 of us ran down to Wimbledon singing and shouting and having a good time and getting into trouble. And it was just wonderful times. And that's what really sealed it. That was my first year as a season to get older. And that sealed the deal for me. Yeah.
Not a bad time to start, mate. Eh?
No, it was wonderful.
And then, based on like Wimbledon players throughout your life, being as a fan, what would be your dream five-a-side team that you could build based on one goalkeeper, one defender, two midfielders, and a striker? So we'll start with a goalkeeper.
Tough question.
Yeah, well, because he's my boyhood hero and he was underrated. I mean, I'd have Bezzy as first reserve, to be honest. Dave Besant would be first reserve, and Aaron Ramsdale would be a contender and all. But I've got to put Dickie Guy in goal. If I don't, he might try and attack me next time he sees me. He's like that. I'll put
He put it on you.
He'll put it on me, or he always does. Yeah. Yes, it's got to be Dickie. Yeah.
Who would be your centre half?
Oh dear. Okay, well, I'm gonna come into a modern era here and say, because it's five-a-side, so therefore it's not the Premier League. I'm not going to go with any of our Premier League players. Although Chris Perry would be a very high-up contender for me, but I've got to go back to really our combined counties league days. Someone that was an embodiment of Wimbledon and everything that we stood for when we got started again. Was unbelievable character, Matty Everard. Matt Everard, he's the only centre back I've ever heard of that scored 25 goals in a season. He scored 25 goals in our second season. He did. He was unbelievable, and what a great. I mean, we he got offered full-time terms when we were in the combined counties league.
Wow.
But he was happy with his job and playing football. And why wouldn't if you're playing part time and not wanting to be too serious? Why wouldn't you have played at our level and in the combined counties league? And he loved it. And what a great character and a leader of men he was. So I'm all over Matty Everard. Yeah,
brilliant.
Not a bad name for a centre back either, is it?
No, that's decent.
Great name.
Isn't it? Who would be your midfield two?
Well, it's got to be Dennis Wise. You've got to put him in there because he's got some real I mean, what a player Dennis Wise was for Wimbledon. Yeah, there's no ifs or buts about that. Yeah, he was pure class. But then the other one, this is a really difficult question because immediately Robbie Earl springs to mind, and if we go in kind of because I'm older, so I tend to go old school for my real heroes. So I would put in a player that you lot have probably never heard of, but any Wimbledon fans over the age of 45, maybe 40 even, would remember. He was an ankle biter like me, but little Stevie Galliers, who he'd fight his own shadow on a football field. I'm telling you. He was absolutely incredible, with a bundle of energy, and we got him from non-league. He played against us for Chorley in the FA Trophy. He ran rings round us. He killed us. They didn't have any other players really. It was Stevie Galliers against the best team in non-league football. It went to 2 replays. And second replay was at Walsall's ground at Fellows Park, and they knocked us out. And Steve Galliers knocked us out. Next season, he was a Wimbledon player, and he was. And then he played with us all the way through in all the divisions. Got signed by Crystal Palace. They paid a load of money for him, and then he came back to us after he'd finished with them. He was just brilliant, Stevie Galliers. Loved him.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't know him. You're right, but he sounds like a bit of me anyway.
Yeah, I might put a bit of Wally Downs in there if we wanted a bit of bite and a bit of messing around and all of that. And Vinny, I could go on and on and on with midfielders. I have to mention both of them just in case they watch this and then want to kill me afterwards. I can't have that. You'd both be in if I had more than 5 aside.
They're on the bench as
big
well.
Glory, big Glory and all.
Yeah.
Big Glory, yeah. I mean, but Sanchez has just got the scariest gaze of all time, and I can't put him in that 5-a-side team in case he scared everyone around.
And then who would you go up top? This is a toughie.
Yeah, it's really tough. See, for 5-a-side, I can think of several players that I'd put in there. But going back in time, I think that because you want a clever player, didn't you? You want someone that's going to sniff around. I'd like to say Fash, but 5-a-side, he's not your man for 5-a-side because he heads everything. So you need someone that can ghost in and do a bit one way and another. So I think I'm going to come down on the side of, and actually I've changed my mind. I was going to give it to Alan Cork, but that's all old school. After last night and that wonderful, amazing finish that he came up with, I'm going to stick Joe Pigott in there because he was amazing. He scored. Listen, in the team that's struggling, he scored over 20 goals this season.
Yeah,
that's the marker. So let's get a bit of current in there and give Joe the nod.
Yeah, he's been superb.
I want to have his babies. I love him because of
that. Brilliant. I'm sure he's flattered, mate.
He's a good lad, Joe.
Blinding. And then before we get into last night's game, the question we ask everyone: Marmite, love it or hate it?
I'm in the middle.
Oh, really?
I like it sometimes.
So yes, then we've had this before, Ivor.
Yeah,
and we've sort of gone with if you like it, if you have it, it's a yes. Because I'm a no. Yeah. The rest of them are yes.
Yeah, every now and again, a little drop of Marmite will what was it? I had Marmite. They did Marmite Pringles the other week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We had the grandkids here, and they had Marmite Pringles, and they were decent. So yeah, like
that sounds a bit of me. I might have to get some of them for the weekend.
Yeah, they were limited edition, so I would have kept them forever, but they've got a sell by date.
Love it. And then again, before we get into like your story and how the club come about and the history in that, last night, mate. Wimbledon 3, Rochdale 3. Talk us through it, mate.
Well, we've got a club doctor like Will Ricketts, one of our club doctors, who's a wonderful bloke. He messaged me with like 10 minutes to go to say, I've got the paddles ready. There were several cases there. Yeah, we were not allowed any people there really, but of the people that are there were several heart attacks waiting to happen last
I
night.
bet, yeah.
You know, you're looking at people's faces and they're all kind of everyone. It was so tense. It was unbelievable. I can't imagine. You know, it was unbelievable. I mean, really. I mean, there's a thing with our team at the moment. Yeah, we're playing really well and we are committed and we're dangerous and we could beat anybody. There is no doubt about that. But on Ipswich on Saturday, and the same thing happened last night, we're bang on top for the first 25 minutes, half an hour. We are all over them and we're starting to create chances. But then you don't take the chance. You don't get the goal ahead. And all of a sudden they play their way back into it. And all of a sudden you're thinking we're on the back foot. And then all of a sudden you're 1-0 down. And you know, and it was just like, how did that happen? Well, you know, a bit of a miscue, a scuffed corner, bounced off of a player's ankle, right into the path of, and it's just like, oh no, you know, we won down. How we won down in this game? And then we can't get the ball because they're a good side, Rochdale. Give them tons of credit. They were amazing. They come out in the second half and it's like, okay, well, we've got to get back at them. And all of a sudden we're 2-0 down. And then it's just like, okay, this is serious now. Come on, boys. Thankfully, we got one back quite quickly, and then it's like, well, here we go. And you could see them; they started to back off. We were like hammering into them, and we get the second goal 2-2, and you sit there going, yes, now we've got them. Oops, we're 3-2 down. Oops, we've missed a penalty. Oops, there's 6 minutes to go.
How's your ticker getting on? All right.
Oh, it's banging now. It is going. It is going, and I'm like, get the pedals ready, Doc. You know, it was really going. And then, it puts up 6 minutes of extra time, and we can't quite get the ball under properly, and we snatched a couple of crosses, and a couple have gone too deep, and it was starting to look a little bit forlorn, but we never stopped. That's the thing. This team never stops. And they kept going and going and going. And then that ball fell to Joe. And I don't know if you've seen that goal at all.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, the cross came into him at the right height for him. He had 3 players around him. He controlled the ball. His first touch was actually superb. His second touch was a lash right into the side net. It was utterly brilliant finish. And then you look at it, and it was 5 minutes, 52 seconds into 6 minutes of injury time. And you look over at the visiting directors who have now got tears in their eyes, and a mate of mine who's a proper Rochdale man, Steve Hill. He's a really good mate, and he was in pieces, and they were in pieces, but polite, and they all understand. They all know the rules of football, but that is extremely hard to swallow for anybody. But in their situation, they've gone from we've got a real good shout at getting out of this. It might not just be Wimbledon that we can catch now. They've got Wigan, and we would be firmly in their sights without a shadow of a doubt. And now it's like,
how many games do you have left?
2
games
left. Wow.
Yeah. And we're 6 points ahead of Rochdale with a 5-goal buffer on the goal difference.
But they would have only been 3 points ahead.
Yeah, they need it.
Who have you got in the last 2 games?
We're home to Pompey on Saturday.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's tough, but we fancy this. No ifs or buts about it. We're not scared of anybody these days. So they have to win Pompey as well, which means they'll have to come at us.
Yeah.
And we'll have a good game with them Saturday, and then Lincoln away.
Another tough
Sunday afterwards, and there is a possibility with the way the fixtures work that Lincoln might just be in a position to still challenge for automatic.
Yeah, they need to win. If they win their game in hand, they're 5 points behind Peterborough from what.
But they're playing Peterborough.
Yeah, and they're second, aren't they?
Yeah.
Isn't it mad how it works? Like so often that, for example, 2 games to go, Rochdale and Wimbledon are both fighting, end up playing each other. You got Lincoln playing Peterborough. It's mad how the fixtures fall that way, especially in divisions like the Championship, League 1, League 2, where It's not like people can say in the Premier League they could be tweaked or fiddled in a way to make it that. There's no way anyone can predict who's going to finish where in these divisions.
That's the point, and that's why you get none of that business going on.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I always look at the start of the Premier League fixtures, and they're easing you into it. And sometime in September you get the first of the big games, which is normally like an Arsenal Man United or so, which ain't a big game anymore, particularly.
I'm glad you said it. I was going to pull you up on that.
Yeah. No, I mean, unless they get it in the European Super League. It's a joke.
Oh, here we go. He's
a gooner, by the way, Ivor.
You have to mention, you're a gooner, are you?
Yeah, for my sins at the moment, yeah.
Yeah. That's why you're the only one not wearing. Oh no, the others aren't wearing football apparel either, are they? So,
nah, not at the moment. Being on a podcast, sometimes you have to, I think, remain a bit impartial. But Terry has Leeds plastered all over his wall normally, so he don't really care.
Quite right too. Now, listen, Arsenal are a fantastic football club, and they've always been a fantastic football club.
It's a tough watch at the minute, pal. I can tell you that.
Is it that bad? Yeah.
I mean, there's no consistency. One week we end up beating someone you don't expect us to beat, and then we get beat by someone who's either below us or on a par with us. It's been a bit of a disappointing season overall, but if we can save the season by winning the Europa League, which I think is going to be a massive tall order. Greg's shaking his head, but we're in the last four, so you've got a chance, ain't you?
Yeah. Always a chance if you're in the last four. I love that. Listen, you just got to keep going forward. It's fantastic, to get that far in a tournament.
Yeah.
Happy days.
It's true, isn't it? And they're still moaning.
Yeah. Well, once a gooner, always a gooner, like as they say. What that can you?
Oh, it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, he's around with his hand up. He does.
Hang on. So you're Leeds.
Turn it in.
You're a gooner. Who is it? Who are you? Chelsea?
No, I'm Liverpool, mate.
He just looks like a Chelsea fan.
Oh, well, it does as it happens. You're right. That's why I said Chelsea. He does look like a Chelsea fan. Sounds like a Chelsea fan and all.
Excellent.
So how comes you're a Liverpool fan then? You're not a Scouser?
No, I don't know. Do you know what?
You don't even know.
I just went with my cousin when I was younger. I just followed him, mate. I mean, don't get me wrong. I lived 2 minutes away from Plough Lane, but you'd already moved on.
Yeah, well,
worse than that by then.
We'll have to cure the Scouse disease.
I know.
Why are you a Leeds fan? Why are you a Leeds fan?
Drummed into me from my old man. Been going up there since I was, before I can remember what football was.
It's an amazing stadium, and it's an amazing place to go to football, Leeds.
I love it, mate. I'm like, I miss it as well. I was talking to one of my mates who I work with. He's a Leeds fan as well. And I was saying, it just feels like I've half forgotten what it's like to go to a football match.
I know.
Like I said, I can see myself crying when I next go.
I understand that. I get it.
Because I can just imagine that when you walk up the stairs and it opens up, I can just imagine that just going to get the better of me. You know what I mean? It's just been so long. It's such a weird feeling, but
Ellen Road back in the day was the most vicious place to go to in football, in my opinion. Yeah, we went there when Leeds were in the second division. They were right. Yeah, they weren't doing very well in the second division either. But like I've never. This was in the 80s,
late 80s. It would have been
quite early 80s. No, quite early
80s. Right, got you.
Yeah, quite well. Say quite earlier. When was it? It must have been middle 80s. What am I talking about? Probably 85.
Yeah,
somewhere around that. Like 10,500 people there supposedly. I'm sure there was a lot more there. But of the 10,500 people that were in that ground, there were 250 Wimbledon fans, right? And I'm not kidding you. Of the 10,500 Leeds fans there, at least 10,000 of them wanted to rip our throats out. I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
Sounds about right, Ivor, to be fair.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And I've got a very funny story about that day, but it's a long one, so I won't bore you with it. Another time, maybe we'll
Oh, enough for Leeds anyway.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Moving on.
Crack back to
we go back then, mate, to before the whole Wimbledon move into Milton Keynes and then AFC starting. What was you doing in your life, day-to-day life, before all of that, just when you're a football fan?
Well, what happened to me was I was in and out of all sorts of things. I had a little stint working in snooker, like looking after young players and running some snooker clubs and selling memberships and stuff like that. And then that all went a bit wonky because there were some interesting characters in the game, I think is the best way to put it. I learned a lot. I landed up in a share of a business that was a place called Tan and Tone up in Wellingborough, which was this was in 1988. So when we won the FA Cup, I was up there. That was a gym, because I look like I'm a gym bunny, obviously. And all sorts of private saunas, jacuzzi, TV bar. Now this is my world. And we had 3 snooker tables, a couple of pool tables, and I was in partnership with a couple of guys with this club. But I had a big issue with it that I just couldn't settle in Wellingborough. I couldn't settle up. That was up north to me, and I'm a London boy. So in the end, I had to come back, and I did. And when I came back, I got into the print industry, and that was, well, I've been loosely connected in the print industry before I got into the snooker world, actually. But I got a job at a company whose offices were in Hayden's Road in Wimbledon. Right by the ground. And one of my biggest things was to get work from the football club, which I actually did. And then I got very successful in the print business for a while, and then I got very unsuccessful. Starting a football club didn't do my business any good whatsoever. But so that was it. I was in the print basically for kind of 30 odd years, and it was great fun. I really enjoyed doing what I was doing, but at the end of the day, I far preferred the football world. So I started doing work for the club. So I was helping them on all sorts of bits and pieces from kind of 1989 onwards, really. And then, except for the first few years when we moved to Sellers Park, when I wouldn't go to Sellers Park, I was very upset with the club over there.
Brilliant. Go on, Greg.
Just obviously, me and you spoke over a little bit. That funny story that my back garden was literally backed onto that business. And I was just chatting to my mum and dad the other day. Had you moved on? Because there was a big fire there at one point. Had you moved?
I was well out of it.
You'd moved on, yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah,
but a big fire. I never even knew that.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you when, and this is what I mean. This is why when I spoke to you about it, just such a small world, like that business was backed onto my back garden. It's mental, really. But I was just talking to my parents the other day, and then we started talking, and then there was a big massive fire there, but I didn't know whether you'd moved on or whatever by then.
We moved out of there in, I think it was 2006, 2007 was when I moved out of there. That was not, we'd started the club by then, and things were it degenerated, that business. The print business changed unbelievably, so things went a little bit wonky for me one way and another, but what can you do? Happens, doesn't it?
It's life, isn't it?
Well, it worked out for the best, mate.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And then, how did the conversation start with starting the club? So obviously it come about that Pete Winkleman decided to move the club to relocate it in Milton Keynes.
Well,
generally didn't go down well, but how did that conversation start?
Didn't go down well.
With yourself and the people you started it with. How did it come about?
Well, what happened was they started all this nonsense about moving the club somewhere. And years before it had been moving Wimbledon to Dublin.
Really?
And if you look it up on the internet, you'll see all the Wimbledon moving to Dublin, and we demonstrated. And because I had the printers, I printed all the posters and these big banners, and I actually wrote a terrible thing on them, but I didn't quite think it the way it came across. But the banners all said Dublin equals death.
For the club.
Death for the club. I mean, we kind of knew it, and we rolled these posters out, and there's a lot of photographs of them because obviously that hit a chord with people. We rolled them out on the day we played Southampton live on Sky. So, you know, the whole of the home end was covered in Dublin equals death. And but then there was also a little bit of rumour about moving up to the land of many roundabouts. So, you know, there was MK No Way banners as well. And literally, we printed thousands. And so the whole end was plastered in them. And it was, you saw it all on television and everything. It was utterly brilliant.
Unbelievable.
But quite the wrong message, really. So there was a lot of talk about all sorts of mad schemes that were going on. And at the same time, you know, Sam and Mam sold most of the club to these Norwegians, and they started talking about, you know, they were going to find us a new ground and they're going to put a pin in the ground and they were going to move out in circles and everything, which was all a load of old codswallop. And then at the end of 2001, they put out, or the end of the season of 2001, they started, the rumours about Milton Keynes really took hold. And then before the start of the season, they sent a brochure out that said it was a unique solution to move Wimbledon to Milton Keynes. And that's what was going to happen. And then we had a season of protest. So we protested against it all and we fought against it like mad. We did something very clever in as far as all of those demonstrations were all done with massive dignity. We were quite clever with it. You know, we had all these black T-shirts made with the then chairman Charles Coppell's face, pretty wanted for the death of a football club and all sorts of stuff on it. And you know, we went to Watford. About 2,000 fans went to Watford, all wearing these T-shirts, and there were Grim Reapers in the crowd, all in their fancy dress, and you know, and that was on Go Digital that game. And we flew a plane over. We're trailing a message. You know, Don's fans want Coppell out. And we made a right noise, but we did it all with real dignity.
Yeah.
And we did some crazy stuff where me and a lot of other people, but we sat down and laid down in front of the Sheffield United coach. I wouldn't let them leave after we played them on a Friday night. The ground got a bit frosty, so my arse stuck to the ground. And then they were going to come out a different way. And myself and Mark Jones, one of the other guys who was when we started the club, we ran round the other side. I don't know how I ran that far, to be honest with you. But he got in the other entrance and laid down in front of the coach, two of us, with the stewards coming up and saying, "Yo, no, we're going to drag you off." I say, "Yo, you lay one hand on me, I'll lay your nicks," and all of that. It was all, but it was ridiculous. Why we did that to Sheffield United, I don't know. But it got in the newspapers, you see.
And making a noise, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was around November of 2001. We'd been invited in to talk to some officials at the club, and it was myself, Chris Stewart, who was the first chairman, Mark Jones, one of the other guys that we kickstarted the club with, and I think it was Steve Elson was with us, a good mate of mine, and I started talking to Chris, saying, "Look, you know, if worst comes to the worst, we'll just start again. You know, there's no doubt. We'll just have to start again." And he said, "You're mad." And I said, "No, genuinely, we had a lot of fun in non-league first time around. It wouldn't be so bad." And it was kind of left at that. And then a couple of weeks later, he phoned me, and I picked the phone up, and he said, "You were serious, weren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I knew exactly what he was talking about." I said, "Yeah, of course I was. Of course I was." And from then on, there were just little mentions of it. I'm sure other people were talking about it as well. I'm sure they were, but I was in position one to be able to make things happen, and that's exactly what we did. So so that's when it first started, and then as it got closer to the decision, none of us. I don't think anybody really thought they'd make the decision and let a football club move out of its area. I think they were more likely to make it go completely bankrupt, and then you start again in the Wimbledon District League or whatever and work your way up. It never seemed feasible to me that they were going to do that. But then as it got closer to the decision day, I started to think, you know what? These people are animals, and it's now a 3-man commission, of which they've got no real, there's a couple of lawyers and an old football bod on it who was the chairman of the Ryman League, which he might not have been at that stage, but he was someone in history with Wimbledon, and it was just like, there are 3 people going to decide on the future of our club. It's outrageous, and then on the 27th of May 2002, I got a phone call from someone at the FA the night before, a good friend of mine who worked there, and he phoned me and he said confidentially, he said, I don't know how to tell you this, but you've lost. So what do you mean we lost? And they said they're going to let the club go to Milton Keynes. And I said, right. So we knew the decision was coming the next day, and it was a big demonstration planned at Soho Square where the FA were based at the time, and everyone was going to go up there. But I immediately phoned Mark Jones, Trevor Williams, and said, look, boys, I know we're all planning to go to Soho Square tomorrow to demonstrate. I said, but I've had the nod. I'm afraid that I've got some bad news. We've lost, and they're going to let the club go to Milton Keynes. I said, I've got to be honest with you. I'm fed up with fighting. I'm fed up with all of this. Let's start tomorrow instead of going up there. Let's start working on how to start again. I said, because it is very much my opinion, but I think it's a fairly obvious opinion, that we have to get started in the next season. If we don't get started in the next season, it will die off, and then everyone will just go, well, I'm going to Tooting and Mitcham now, I'm going to Sutton, I'm going to Fulham, I'm going wherever, although I couldn't have bared it, but so we've got to do this thing, and that's what really happened. Chris Stewart, I rang as well. He had to go up and get the verdict, so he was a little bit like, yeah, well, how can you know? And I was, well, somebody in the know has told me. So, you go get the verdict, do what you do. I said, but, speak to us during the day or afterwards, and we'll sort out going forward. I said, because whatever happens here, I think you should be the chairman of the first club, of the club, and we should go from there, because, he was the leader of the Independent Supporters Association, and a leader of men. People followed him, and therefore he was the obvious choice for me. So that was just my opinion. Obviously, there were other people who were going to get involved further down the line, but we had to get started. So that's what happened. The next day, 3 of us set about making inquiries into how to start a football club and what to do. And Chris went up there, and I think it was 11 o'clock in the morning. They announced the decision, and our fans went a bit potty, and we actually cracked a window, and there was a load of eggs thrown, and they nearly cornered Charles Coppell somewhere. I can't remember where it was, that they nearly got him, and they chased his car down the road, and people were really upset, and there was a lot of wailing and gnashing and crying and everything. But all that time we were spending working out how to start a new club. We talked to the London FA. We'd done, by the end of that day, we got a bit of a roadmap together. It was only a bit of a roadmap, and then I had a phone call with Chris Stewart during that day, where it was like, look, come in here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock or half 9 or whatever it was, and let's get started, because we need to get cracking, because we've got to start the club this year, and we haven't got long to do it. This season we have not got long to get senior status, and then crack on with the club, and that's exactly what we did. And it was exhilarating. It was a genesis, and the rest, as they say, is history.
100%, mate. Yeah, go on, Greg.
So with that, the 3 of you proceeded to was it a meeting in a pub?
No, it actually wasn't a meeting in a pub. Although the pub did come into it. But I'll tell you what happened there. During the day of the 28th, there were me, Trevor and Mark were working on finding out things that we could do and how we could do it, speaking to the London FA, starting to think about where we could play, how we could play, trying to get a map of everything we needed to do, speaking to someone on the football side, speaking to the Ryman League, letting everybody know that we're going to start again. Right, so we and the big call was with the London FA. Actually, we got advice to go to them, not to the Surrey FA, and that made a massive difference to us, because the London FA were massively supportive. This guy called David Folkes was unbelievable to us, what he did for us. So, sorry, I lost me thread for a second there.
The meeting in the pub that weren't in the pub.
So while we were all doing that, all the fans were up in London demonstrating and going mad and chasing cars and doing all sorts of stuff. But then come the evening, they filtered back to the Fox and Grapes on Wimbledon Common.
Yeah.
So
I know where that is. Yeah.
yeah, because that's where Old Centrals, where Wimbledon Football Club was formed. But they went up there almost for a wake. You know, it was like
Right.
football club's over. Let's all go and get pissed up there, and that's what we'll do. But so Mark said everyone's up at the Fox and Grapes, and they're all wailing and gnashing and all very upset. And I said, well, yeah, we've got loads to do here, so we've got to get on with stuff. But you know, why don't you go up there? And you go up there and you tell them that we're going to start again.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get down in the dumps. We're going to go again, and we're going to take everybody with us, and it's going to be one hell of a magic carpet ride. So Mark went up there, and Mark's, Jonesy is a very effervescent character, and we were already bought into the new club. Yeah, we were in the moment, and it was we were going to do this, and there was a big meeting on the Thursday night, which was the AGM of the Independent Supporters Association, WISA it was called, and this was massive for us. So we had to try and carry the crowd. So Mark went up there and he rabble roused them, and that's the bit that was in the pub. But all the initial work, the initial meetings, everything happened behind the scenes. And so we never actually had that sit down in the pub and said, let's go start again. It's just but it's a nice way of putting a story to people. It's kind of got a bit of traction these days. So it is what
Sorry,
it is.
that's me.
What was the conversation like in regards to the team name and the badge as well?
Okay. Well, on that first day, Mark got started on the badge. The badge is the old badge of Merton.
Yeah.
So, which is basically it's the same. It's the basics are the same as the Wimbledon Football Club badge.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we got onto you have to get onto the, what do they call it? The Heraldry Society to get permission to use a badge. So we got started on that straight away. They gave us permission more or less straight away, and that was it. We started to design stuff, and by the second day, because I had this print works, we were literally printing car stickers. Follow the dot. We still make them today. We promised to keep making them forever. So people put it on their cars. It's follow the Dons.
Seen them everywhere, mate. Like grow up in Wimbledon, everyone had them.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So we took all them to the meeting and gave them out on the first. We should have charged £1 a go. We were completely in those days. But so we started straight away. We knew what the badge was going to be. The name that came about with. It's a much told story, but it's one of my favourite stories of all. Really, was we this guy David Folkes at the London FA. He made us go and collect the form the next day. A guy called Niall Cooper went and collected the form, brought it into us at 297 Aidens Road, and we started writing the form out and everything, which we couldn't get very far with because we didn't know where we were playing. We didn't have a ground. We didn't have anything really. But it was important that we knew what we had to do to get senior status. Which the meeting I think was on June the 13th. So now it's we got the form on May the 29th. That's not a lot of working days to get all of that done. To get senior status, you have to have a ground share deal. It has to be a solid ground share deal. All these things had to fall into place, and it was difficult. So once we got the form, we phoned David Folkes, and he said, "Right, I'm going to come in and see you, and we're going to fill this form out, and we're going to get it all sorted for you." Lovely. This bloke turns up, and he is a typical. He's exactly what you'd expect a head of an FA to be, the London FA. A little bit of a handlebar moustache, with a blazer, very formal, but one of the nicest guys I ever met in my life because he was on our side, 100%. He was like, he couldn't say it officially or loudly, but he was. I can say it now because he's retired. I'm on your side. This is wrong. What's happened to you lot? Let's see what we do to put it right. It's fantastic. So he sat.
Want to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's got this form in front of him, and it was me and Chris Stewart in the room. I think that Trevor might have been in there as well. I wouldn't swear to that, but I think Trevor was in the room. And it was like, "What's the name, lads? What's the name?" So the name that we'd always wanted to call the club was Real Wimbledon. Makes sense, doesn't it? With what's happened, they've franchised the club, so why wouldn't we want to call ourselves Real Wimbledon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, David never looked up from the thing. He just went, "Nope." You can imagine. So we said, okay, FC Wimbledon. No, too much like the old club, won't get away with that. And I'm like, right, okay. And then we started talking, saying, well, we're a bit stuck now. They're the two names that we wanted. We're a bit stuck. And then, I think it was me that said, I remembered, I've been reading a lot about this non-league club that had started to do quite well called AFC Sudbury.
Mhm.
And I said, well, what about AFC, AFC Wimbledon? And he said, yeah, wrote down AFC Wimbledon. Like that. And then it was like, and I think it was Chris Stewart. And I said, what does the AFC stand for? And he said, and it was these words, absolutely nothing. AFC stands for nothing. So it's not athletic football club. It's not a fans club. It's not anything. AFC is just a prefix. Don't stand for anything. So it's like, okay, we're AFC Wimbledon. And that was how we got the name. The best bit of that conversation, though, and the bit that I loved the most, and this was definitely Chris and I in perfect unison when he turned around and said a date the club was formed, and we both said 1889. Brilliant.
The same as the original Wimbledon.
Yeah, that's right. And he put down on that sheet, and it's an absolute. It's indisputable that we started in 1889 because he put.
So they actually registered it in as 1889.
Yeah, that's when the club started. That's what he put on the sheet, and that's why when anyone turns around to me and says, "Do you think you really are Wimbledon?" I'm like, "No, I don't think it. We are. We are Wimbledon. End of story."
So
that is class.
Yeah.
If they'd moved, they've obviously moved and become Milton Keynes Don. Why couldn't you just be Wimbledon?
Well, because once we started as AFC Wimbledon, we're owned by the trust, so there are restricted actions, and one of the restricted actions would be changing the name. We can eventually go back to Wimbledon FC if we want, but the fans have got to want to do that. Now, it's not all old for the old people like me. There's a different generation in there, so.
There's a generation that would have only known it as AFC Wimbledon.
Exactly. So personally, I'd love it to go back to Wimbledon FC. I would love to do that. It'd be a great day for me. But at the end of the day, as you can see on your backdrops there, we are the Dons.
Yeah.
And let's face it,
you don't lose that. Yeah.
The firm up the road have got nothing to do with being Dons, have they? Let's face it.
I've always found it strange. I'm in the same boat as you, Ivor. I feel the same way. Like we recently had Dean Lewington on, who I'm sure you know of. Like he's been.
I won't tell you what we call him.
Yeah. And it was a weird conversation because we feel the same way as you with the whole franchise and it's wrong and whatever. And it was an interesting chat with Dean, because we wanted to know what it was like for someone who was in his position who was at Wimbledon.
Oh yeah.
And do you know what I mean? And because I said to him, "Are you a one club man?" Because technically, his registration's never changed.
Yeah. No, I'll get that.
Do you know what I mean? It's a really sort of a weird situation, and touch wood, it never happens again over here with any club because it's such a madcap moment, really, that's happened. And I always associated AFC Wimbledon as their Wimbledon, and it used to actually piss me off when I was younger when you'd see them on Sky Sports News and that, and it'd be like AFC, and there was a moment where I don't know when or why or who changed it, but they started putting as the prefix like in the corner when the score's up, WIM for Wimbledon, and it was like, now we're talking. Do you know what I mean? And but
there's more and more that happening. I mean, none of us are particularly fond of people calling us AFC, but people do, and everyone knows what they mean. And I don't like it, but just because I don't like it, that's not going to stop it happening. You know? So I would like to go back to being Wimbledon FC at some stage, but it's not the be all and the end all. So we'll sort that out in time. We've got to get settled in our new surroundings and sort ourselves out a bit first.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. I'd love it to go back to Wimbledon FC as well at some point. It'd be class. As you said about the new surroundings, mate, how difficult was that to eventually get the plough lane moved on? Because like Greg's fully aware, he grew up literally there. and
Yeah.
we know the sort of backstory and how long it took to sort of get your home back. You know what I mean? So how long was that process? And did you sort of start that from when you first started the club? Was that something you was trying to get done like as soon as?
Well, we kind of voiced it that we were, but like originally, we started talking to we've got Eric Samuelson, who was also on the board and then became the CEO. He had a connection to Safeways. There's actually film of this, the Safeways guy saying, well, if they've got £8.5 million, at the moment to possibly buy the land, that's what we paid for it, and so on and so on. It was just like, oh my God, we haven't got 8.5 pence, never mind 8.5 million, and we were put in this position of having to give up on Old Plough Lane.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact year, but I think it was 2003, 2004. We probably started the movement or the idea of looking for a stadium for the long-term future. Back in Merton, specifically, hopefully Wimbledon. And then this project grew where 18 sites were identified as possible, of which the vast majority of them were completely pipe dreams. There was one where we were going to concrete over Malden Station, over the railway bit there, but that was going to be concreted over in this massive stadium and village built all over the back of the station and everything, and then you look at it and it's about 4.5 billion or whatever it was. And some of the schemes that we had, we were looking at a big scheme off of Moranton Way. But I think that when it was all costed up, it was about 650 million, and and it was like we got about 65 quid. So it's going to be difficult to do that. And then everything really changed. There was Councillor Andrew Judge did a load of work on the long-term development framework on Plough Lane, because everyone knew that the Dog Stadium was in terminal decline, and therefore there were already some property moves there, because that had been bought by Luke Johnson and his Risk Venture Capital Group. They basically bought that to turn it into super casinos. I don't know if you remember all that being.
I do, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, that would have been a perfect site. It's licensed for gambling. It's a big site. You could have built a big hotel with it and all the rest of it. It made perfect sense, except that the government did a massive U-turn. So all of a sudden they were lumbered with all these greyhound sites that lose money, because people were stopping going greyhound racing, and they had no investment in the stadiums and all the rest of it. And so Andrew Judge led the charge to get us in this long-term development framework to say, if anyone wants to develop Plough Lane, it has to be for sports intensity. Sports intensification was the actual word, specifically a stadium for AFC Wimbledon, basically.
Brilliant.
So now for them to turn that over would take a long time and would get very messy. So that was sneaked in through the back door, really. And then we met this guy, Stephen Allen British, who was to become the leader of the council. He won his election when only 2 Labour councils were turned over the reigning Tories in the country, and he was one of them. And his big thing was, I want to see Wimbledon back in Plough Lane. And 10 years later, he did it. And really and truthfully, without him, it would never happen. It was a clever scheme that went in to get us Plough Lane. It was fantastic, and there's a lot of stories around it. But that could be all day talking about that on its own.
Absolutely phenomenal story, from having nothing to what you have now. It's astounding, to be honest.
Yeah. It is, and that's the whole thing. When you look at this, what happened with the ESL last week, and the surge of fan power that happened there.
That lasted long.
Well, yeah, but what has happened? There is the birth of a movement, where fans of the big clubs all of a sudden realise that the thing that's missing from the big clubs, this is my opinion. It's not a club's opinion. It's my opinion. The thing that's missing from the big clubs is the word club. You no longer feel part of Arsenal as a club. I don't believe. Yeah, they're a massive business.
I can see why you make that statement. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And they're so far detached from the fans now
Yeah.
Both the board and therefore the players, the managers, they're so far.
Especially Arsenal's board. Yeah. So, yeah.
But when you look at all of that, and like Liverpool, I've been to Liverpool on business, and I've been to Everton on business in the same day. You go to Everton, and they all want to know who you are, and they've still got this. They're the last vestige of a proper club to me in the Premier League, and then you go to Liverpool, and like no one looks at you, no one talks to you. It was incredible, to be honest with you. So that's the big thing. So football needs to find its soul again, and for that, at the top level, and I don't think it's going to happen, by the way.
No.
At the top level, if it was to happen at the top level, they've got to re-engage properly with fans, and fans have got to feel that they're part of a club, and genuinely part of a club, and not just part of a marketing campaign.
Well, yeah, because it's more focused on business now than the actual fans. It's like, how much money can you turn over?
Yeah, that's right.
And obviously for a club like yourselves, where the pride is the people, essentially, and it's like that focus is on community and like that sort of thing.
That's the big thing.
I can see why you feel fully part of it and fully into it. But like you say, the more you go up the chain, it can be a bit different. I probably wouldn't say the same for Leeds, Tel. I would say Leeds is more of still towards the fans quite a bit. But
well, it wasn't, mate, for the past couple of decades. It wasn't at all. But since the new regime came in 4 or 5 years ago, when Radrizzani took over, he's pretty much made it a club for the fans again. They've completely re-engaged with the community, and the players have bought into it. All the staff have bought into it. So we are sort of a bit of a throwback in the terms of that now.
Yeah.
But like, we ain't been in the top flight for 16 years, so that helped be us re-engage with the fans, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, if we were still up battling in the top 4, top 6 for the past 20 years, we'd be the same as you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've got that. I've got that. It is, Leeds. I haven't been to Leeds for a little while, but I love the passion of real football fans. I love real football fans. We're all the same. We're all cut from the same cloth.
100%.
We might not like each other for the team that we support, but a real football fan understands another football fan's pain, because there's no such thing as a football fan that doesn't suffer pain. And Liverpool didn't think that they were going to be suffering the pain they're suffering this year, but they're going right through the ringer because their expectations have been raised.
Oh, massively, yeah.
In comparison to most other football clubs who never win anything, it's like, shut up and get on with it, will you? And the same goes with Arsenal and Tottenham and everything. They've all won something. Well, Tottenham haven't won a lot.
I was waiting for that, because if you
I was just about to say it myself.
Yeah.
Go on, Greg.
So now that you're in the new stadium and capacity of 9,000 with 300, was it?
9,200 now.
200. So you've also got the option to extend that.
Yeah.
And what's 20, can't it?
20, yeah.
What's 20?
What's the plan with that, mate? Like, what's your next step until you actually take up that extension?
Well, there's all sorts of schemes in the pipeline already. People are talking about, so you've got the big West stand there, the big stand there. The planning permission would mean we could build the East stand. And there's lots of people, lots of partners that are looking at that. Maybe a health centre or a hotel or something like that might come in and go, tell you what, we'll build that for you, but this is what we're putting in there. That could happen quite easily. So, I'm very much on the watch this space a little bit. I mean, let us get in, give us 6 months, a year to find our feet, and we'll have to see what the actual appeal of people coming to watch what Touchwood should be League One football next season. We'll have and the appetite after COVID, and then we'll see where we go, because it wouldn't surprise me if we need to stretch a stand quite quickly. And who knows? We the form we've been on since Mark Robinson came over would have got us into the playoffs if that was over the season. Maybe even a little bit more than that. So let's keep that going and see what happens at the start of next season. You never know.
Yeah, because I think if you get the ball rolling, you could be riding the crest of a wave there with
Oh yeah.
The new stadium, it will engage with the community, like everyone from around the area. Like I don't support Wimbledon, but I always have a soft spot for Wimbledon because it's where I grew up and
Yeah.
it's my local club. So as soon as it was announced, however many years ago, that the move was going to be happening, me and however many people that I know, friends and people I work with, we're all going to Player Lane when that's back open.
Yeah.
Do you know, like,
Yeah.
not Wimbledon fan, but I'm going. Like, and
We've had so many inquiries from people since this ESL thing came out, where people that are genuinely, one Tottenham fan actually rang up and said, "That's it. I want three of the most expensive hospitality tickets. I want 3 of them. That's it. I'm done. I'm not going to Tottenham anymore. I'm not interested. I'm not a Tottenham fan anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm coming to support you lot."
brilliant.
And that is amazing. I think the other thing that actually, with what you've been talking about, it's a good thing to touch on. What Wimbledon have done, and the Wimbledon fans, particularly the Don's Local Action Group, which I'm sure you know a bit about that. What they've done during COVID in supporting the local community is second to none. There's no other club, no Premier League club has done as much as Wimbledon have done. None.
No.
Nobody. We've done more than a lot of them put together almost. And that is an achievement, and that is something. And when you talk about marketing campaigns in football, what these guys have done for us, and they've done it. We as the club didn't do it. We support it. We give it our backing. Of course we do. But what these guys have done for us is the best marketing campaign you'll never get. You could do anything. You could give gold bars away in the area. It wouldn't be as good. We wouldn't have too many of them, I suppose. But we can have a better form of marketing than we've got from the Don's Local Action Group. It's been totally incredible, and they deserve so much credit. It's unreal.
Yeah, superb, mate. Like you said, it engages with the community, and you only need that next generation to sort of, oh, bloody hell, we've got a football club in Wimbledon again.
Yeah.
Show interest in football, and they come and watch Wimbledon, and then you've got the next generation of Wimbledon fans. You know what I mean? Especially at League One, like that's a fucking good level of football.
Oh, without a doubt.
You know what I mean? It's
next year we're going to have Sheffield Wednesday, maybe Derby.
Derby, yeah.
Could be. You could have Sheffield Wednesday and Derby. Both of them could make that drop. That'd be unreal, wouldn't it?
I must admit, I do hope so. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, Sunderland may well not get up, although I suspect they might do now in the playoffs. But Lincoln are going strong, so I quite fancy them in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Sunderland, Ipswich, Pompey.
It's massive clubs, mate.
Big clubs.
Charlton.
Yeah, Charlton. Huge clubs that we're going toe to toe with week in, week out, and next season League One is going to be super strong. I'll tell you,
Massively, yeah.
How much is a season ticket there currently, Ivor?
Do you know what? I don't even notice. I don't sell the season tickets. I do all the commercials, not the season tickets. You can get a season ticket at our place for about £300.
Brilliant.
It's not a ridiculous amount of money to support your local team. It really isn't. And we're going to be doing membership deals and things where so people will just be able to buy 6 tickets a season, or have the right to buy tickets by becoming a member, and all of these different things. There's going to be a lot of different schemes, and we're launching them in the next week or so. Yeah. And that's going to be amazing because we've basically got 4,000 season tickets in our back pocket already. And we're not going to sell the ground out on season tickets. We probably could, but we're not going to sell it out on season tickets because we want the next generation to be able to come.
Yeah, of course.
Not everyone can go to every game, but people, we want to give people the chance that when they want to buy a ticket, they can buy a ticket and still support the club. Whereas if it's like, I will give you for instance, with Arsenal. I don't know if you go to games or not, but
I was fortunate enough. Well, I was fortunate. It wasn't my ticket, but I managed to get a season ticket off a geezer that I didn't really know that well. I used to work with, and he just mentioned to me one day in passing, like down the corridor, that he was giving up his. Was I interested in his ticket for a couple of years? So I was like, and I had the money at the time, so I thought, yeah, but it was a little bit more than £300, I have to say. But
it's about that per match.
It was scary how much it was, to be fair.
The truth of it is, when you go to Arsenal, you have a look around and you see how old everybody is at Arsenal. when you see the Arsenal away crowd in particular,
different.
They're all my age.
Yeah.
They're all my age. I mean, literally, I mean, I've seen the Arsenal away crowd, and I look at them and I'm like, there's no young people there whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mental. Now they're great fans, all that lot. They're proper.
They're the diehards, the one who go all across the country. I mean,
there's no room for young people to get in because they've got all the season tickets. So we're trying to make sure that our next generation can get involved.
Well, funny you should say that, because the last time I knew at Arsenal, the waiting list was like years to get a seat. Years. So that younger generation, unless that's being passed down from the old man or the uncle or whatever, they're never going to get. It's going to be difficult for them. Very, very extremely difficult.
I sat in a marketing meeting at the FA once. I got asked to go to the FA to sit in a meeting to tell them why we'd been so successful with getting crowds in for the FA Cup. Right. And when I walked in, it was myself, the head of marketing for the FA, someone else who I didn't know, and then there's the marketing director of Arsenal there. Right. Okay. And I'm like, so he was really fascinated into how we persuaded people to pay money to come to a game, because he said, we've got the complete opposite problem to you. We're like, okay, well, what's that then? He said, we've sold all the tickets. We can't get anyone to come. That's what he said. And I'm like, well, lucky you, because we'd still like the money. But stadiums are much better when they've got people in. And that was a long time ago now, that meeting. But it's absolutely true. That was what he said. We sold the tickets, we can't get them to come.
As messed up as this sounds, because I've seen a few people do it before. People buy the tickets and then just sell them on and make profit off of it. They've got no interest in going to the game. So some people use it as a money spinner, which obviously that I think that's completely wrong, to be fair, but it is what it is. And I think for bigger clubs, then maybe that happens. But I like what you've done at AFC Wimbledon. Like I said, massively take my hat off to you, because to start that from nothing to what, like looking at the ground in Terry, that's phenomenal. It's not your everyday story for sure.
It's incredible, really, isn't it? When you think about it.
A lot of people have given up a lot of time. We've had thousands of volunteers. We've got hundreds of volunteers on a regular basis, but over the years, thousands of people have given up their time and gone above and beyond the call of duty. And some of them, they're completely mental with what they do in a brilliant way. But it's quite upset, and it's getting. There's more and more people coming forward all the time because of what we've done in the community. People are going, I want to give something back. I want to give something back, and it's happening, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
long may it go on.
Yeah, too right, mate.
Cool, mate. Yeah.
Over sort of the period of time since it's starting to now, what has been the one standout moment? I know there's been loads and loads, but if you gun to your head, if you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, it would be, it's such an old one, this. If I had to pick one, it would be at the City of Manchester Stadium when Danny Kedwell scored that penalty. And we got back in the Football League after 9 years. That's the one that still sends a shiver down my spine. And again, there's film of this somewhere. I've got it somewhere, but I don't know where, of the aftermath of that. I mean, it was just like, this is unbelievable. We're just beating Luton. We're back in the Football League after. It's ridiculous. It's a fairy story. It can't be real. And then it was being broadcast live, and they grabbed me and they put a microphone in front of me, which was not a good idea, to be honest, at the time, because I like people were crying all around me. They were going absolutely mad. All the smoke was going off in the stadium, and it was like people were just losing. I was losing the plot completely, and they said so. And this is coming out of the stadium and on Sky Television and everything, which I didn't realise. And they said, so Ivor, what have you got to say? And I said something like, well, it proves we were right all the way along. And I went to say come all, and I just stopped myself. I went, stuff them all. And everyone started laughing all around it because they all know what I really meant.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was a very dangerous moment for live broadcast, I can tell you, because they nearly got it. They nearly got what it was unbelievable.
So that would have been iconic then, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, that wasn't the partying that went on after that, and everything was just that was extreme partying. I've got to tell you, it was just unbelievable. It was amazing. So yeah, that's the most iconic moment. But there's been lots of them that have been brilliant in between. Winning at Wembley in front of like 58,000 fans. That was pretty something.
I was there, mate. What Plymouth game? 2016.
Yeah. That was
I was there.
Were you there with Mr. O'Sullivan?
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't at all. I was there with a group that I used to work with. We're all like, a couple of them grew up in Wimbledon as well, that are like me, like always follow Wimbledon as sort of like a second club.
Yeah.
And one of them is a proper Wimbledon fan.
Yeah.
And the other guy that we worked with, who was a part of our group, was a Plymouth fan. So he was going with his family and friends from Plymouth in the Plymouth end. We all met up beforehand, had a drink, went to the game, and then we all met up afterwards and gloated to him. He was sick as a pig.
They never turned up that day. But for that day, you see, now I never had a single drink that day, because that was when you talk about a football club giving you something back and people say, what have you had back out of it? That day, which was amazing, I managed to take my parents, both my parents, I drove them there, and that was the last game they ever went to together.
Wow.
And we got them in the Royal Box. My old man was already more or less wheelchair bound by then. And we got them in, they were in the Royal Box and they got looked after. Like Wembley did an absolute number on them.
Brilliant.
Which was because I was privileged to have got that. I'm not gonna pretend, but that to me was something so special and a memory. And then we all went back to Kings Meadow afterwards. I don't know, did you come back to Kings Meadow afterwards?
To be honest, I can't remember what I'd done afterwards.
It was insane back at Kings Meadow. I mean, you lot all look like you'd like a rave or two, I guess, one way and another.
What makes you say that?
It was like a never-ending rave at Kings Meadow. At the end of it, there's about 150 blokes in the back bar, because one of the things was Aziz's on fire. We had this Adi Aziz who was as fast as grease like lightning, but forgot to take the ball with him most of the time. He was a wonderful player, Adi Aziz. He was great. He scared the living daylights out of teams. And he was honestly, so the crowd that were left, just non-stop, it was playing that song, whatever it's called, I know, the world is on fire or whatever, your defence is terrified.
Yeah.
It was repeat after repeat, and they were just standing there in the dark, stomping like that. Every now and again, someone just fell over in a pile of beer and
I bet they did.
plastic cups.
Brilliant, wasn't it? It was such a great day, mate. It was great when because Bayo got the penalty, didn't he, right at the end?
Yeah.
I remember, because where we was sort of like to the side of it, to the left, as he's looking at the goal, we was directly to his left.
Yeah.
I remember the sort of commotion that he was fighting. Was it Lyle Taylor he was fighting over the penalty?
No, it was Callum.
Callum, that's right. Of course it was. And I don't think anyone would have won that fight with Bayo, to be fair, but he wanted that, didn't he?
He did. There were other iconic days when we played Staines to get out of the Ryman League. That was, if we don't win that game, God knows what happens to us, because people would have drifted after that, I believe, to a certain degree.
Yeah.
We played Hampton and Richmond at their place. We needed a draw. And if you ever get the chance to look at the YouTube of that goal, because nowadays it wouldn't have stood, because the ball got thrown in, two Hampton players literally ran into each other, cracked their skulls properly, went down. Chris Hussey's led, they run off with the ball, crossed it, we've scored, equalised. That's what put us in the conference.
Mad, isn't it?
Nowadays, there's no way that would have been allowed to carry on.
No, that would have been stopped.
Is that where you started when you reformed as AFC Wimbledon, the Ryman? Is that the league that you...
No,
Combined Counties.
Combined Counties League.
Combined Counties, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, that was known at the time as the Seagrave Haulage Combined Counties League. There you go. That's what it was. They went bust and they knocked everyone for the sponsorship. It was hilarious, really.
It's mad, isn't it? Go on, Greg. You had something there, mate.
Just about, you touched on like Akinfenwa and stuff. I was just going to ask you, mate, over the years you've had some good players, and he must have been a lot of fun to have around the club, Bayo. One other was like Lyle Taylor. Did you sort of know straight away that you had someone that was good enough to make it and go well, he's obviously playing international football now, and he's into the Championship now.
Yeah.
Playing on a regular basis for a top team. Just about them two.
Well, Bayo was just what you see is what you get with Bayo. Great big, I mean, a very fun character. Great bloke, no doubt about it. Him and I had a great relationship. He actually did a thing. We did a big charity thing, which raised an awful lot of money and got a lot of profile for a charity, where he actually bench pressed me.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
He actually bench pressed me at this really nice dinner. He bench pressed me. Like, he picked me up like a twig. I'm only little. I'm a fat bastard one way and another. He absolutely flung me about like a rag doll. So he's proper strong lad, Bayo. Great character, great determination, and I'm delighted for him that he had his extended career at Wickham and had more success there. And I'm not surprised that happened, because he's an absolute leader of men. There is no doubt about that.
He got his goal in the Championship as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant, wasn't it?
Absolutely fantastic. But then Lyle, when Lyle joined us, his career was at a low ebb. There's no doubt about that. He'd been out on loan from Sheffield United and then Scunthorpe, who'd bought him, and he never settled there, which I'm not surprised about particularly, and had a bit of a bad time. And when he came to us, we paid next to nothing for him. But I remember he made his debut in a pre-season friendly. I think it might have been at Basingstoke. I think it might have been. He might have played in one game before that, but I think it was Basingstoke. He scored 2 goals that were right out the top draw. Now, it's only against non-league opposition that are nowhere near as good as our full-time players. But the style that he did it with, I was like, aye, we've got one here. We've got one here. But there's a reason why he hasn't been as successful as he should have been, because he's not been comfortable and he's not been loved and everything. So, Lyle was a very individual character. And, we had to, we got the best out of him without a shadow of a doubt. Neil Hardley did an amazing job with him, because, footballers need managing the same as any people do. And, amazing, absolutely fantastic talent. And we knew, after 3 years, we couldn't hold on to him anymore. Sometimes you just can't afford a player. You have to accept you can't afford a player. And he wouldn't re-sign, and we knew he wouldn't. And he went off to Charlton. We know Sunderland were after him, all sorts of clubs were after him, but he went to Charlton, and then he's gone to Forest, and he's by all accounts and purposes got a tasty deal there, and good luck to him. We have nothing but fond memories of Lyle. When he was on song, what a player, no doubt about it.
Yeah, too right, mate.
There was one more. Sorry, Tel.
Greg. Yeah, no, go on, mate.
One more. Probably in the early days, because he's a bit old now, and he was my strike partner at Whiteleaf, Roscoe.
Oh, what a Roscoe the same. Yeah. What a great.
Yeah, he was an old fella when obviously me and him played up front, but he was a good player, very good player. What was he like when he was a little bit younger and then playing well for you?
He'd come to us as a he was injured when he came to us. He'd had some shin splint problems down at Torquay, and it looked like that was going to put him out of full-time football. So he came to us, and as soon as he came, it's pure class. He was pure class. He was the first player that we got that I remember thinking, crikey, this guy has got everything that you'd expect a professional footballer to have. And if he hadn't been injured, I'm sure he'd have been very, very successful. And he was amazing, just amazing. Great character, great lad to have around. And then, he got the offer to go back to full-time football, and he went and played league football again. And, I followed his career very closely. He did really, really well, and delighted that he did, because what a great player.
Yeah, he was good. We got on quite well on the pitch, really. We had a good little partnership. Back, as I say, it was at the back end of his career, and he was still at it. His movement and just timing of being in the right place, right time. His whole game was
timing, wouldn't it? He used to play on the shoulder and all. I dare say he lost a bit of that as he got older, I would imagine. But he used to play on the shoulder.
He was that clever. He was just still in the right places. Sometimes we didn't even see eye to eye, but we just clicked on the pitch. We were quite well, worked quite well together.
Yeah, good lad, Roscoe. Yeah, good fond memories of him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Good.
And then like obviously you're like a fan of the club first and foremost. Has there ever been a decision you've had to make business wise for the club that's been hard for you, like to set maybe your allegiances of being a fan aside, or as there not really been many that get in the way like that?
Oh, that's a great question.
Thank
It's
you.
a great question. Not one that I've got a ready answer for either. Yeah, there've been lots of times when I've sat there and thought, this might not go down well with people, or it's not the way we really want to do things. But you're doing a deal with people, and they're saying, look, there's confidentiality involved in this. We don't want people to know what we're doing and how we're doing it, and you have to do that. And I've always been a bit uncomfortable with that. But there's two sides to every deal. And if you want to do deals with people, you have to go along with their modus operandi. And that can sometimes be that they don't want to tell anyone anything. That's just the way it is. So we have to get on with it. So apart from that, as can I think of anything that's really been upset? I suppose when we got rid of a manager once, that I knew that the fans would hate that. I knew that they'd hate it, and that was in the very early days. I knew they'd hate it, but there were reasons which we still can't go into, but there were reasons for it, and that was that was a really difficult one. That was horrible. That got quite nasty and bitter with a few people, and I'll never forget that. That was horrible. But other than that, no, it's all been
fair play. Because I always wondered, because obviously you understand completely the fans' point of view. So when you have to go into certain like deals and whatever that are going to go ahead, you might think, fucking hell, I know how this is going to go down. So always interested me that.
Yeah.
But before we sort of like close this off, mate, in regards to sort of the legends of yesteryear from the old Wimbledon as such, a lot of them showed massive support for you guys.
100%, yeah.
At the start, I vaguely remember. I don't know the ins and outs and who it was and whatever. I vaguely remember some of the players giving their medals to the club from the FA Cup win as well.
Yeah, Vinnie Jones did that.
Was it Vinny? Yeah.
Vinny, yeah. I spoke to Vinny last week, and and the first thing he said to me was, "Doing all right, son, and we were doing all right." He's a Wimbledon man, make no mistake. He actually said something to me last week where he described Wimbledon as being his birthing mother. So without Wimbledon, Vinny would probably not have the persona that Vinny's got now.
Yeah.
Although somehow he would have always got that, because Vinny is an alpha male and unbelievable character. What drive and energy that man has got.
Yeah.
I love the man. Obviously, from a Leeds point of view as well, he's a legend at Leeds as well. I know he wasn't there long, but he's loved at the club. You know what I mean? He's got a Leeds tattoo on his leg.
Yeah. No, he's a proper geezer. He's Vinny, and I've got a lot of time for him. And a lot of the old characters are just they make no mistake. Dave Besant, Sanch, all of them, they're massively behind Wimbledon. All the ones you'd want to are all massively behind us.
Brilliant. Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you sort of still get that from them? And like, is there many of them that are still sort of around the club? Obviously, they can't all come and watch as they would like pre-COVID and whatever. But do they still sort of float about? And also, do you reckon a lot of them will turn up when Plough Lane is open?
100%. They're all going to want to come along. At the end of the day, they know who we are and where their birthright is. And there's an awful lot of them can't believe we got back to Plough Lane. And they'll be about, make no mistake.
Too right. It'd be great. I don't know if there is any sort of plan for anything like this, to do some sort of like charity match or something at the ground featuring a load of the old boys as well. That would be.
Well, most of those old crazy gang boys are actually past turning out on the pitch now.
Of course, yeah.
And I could say that without any fear that they're going to come and beat me up like they might have. Because we did do a couple of games with them, and they were still unbelievably competitive. I mean, we played Chelsea in one charity game where we were 4-0 up, and Dean Holdsworth hadn't scored yet, and Robbie Earle and Alan Court got on my case, and they said, look, you got a substitute. They called him Reg after Reg Holdsworth from Coronation Street. They said, you got a substitute Reg. So what do you mean I've got a substitute Reg? So he's dying to score and he hasn't scored yet. We're 4-0 up against Chelsea, and you've got a substitute and he'll go mad. I said, we aren't going to sub him for. And they said, the Womble. Get the Womble over and substitute him for the Womble. So I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So we wrote his number down on a board, on a bit of cardboard, and got the referee's attention. Sub. We got the Womble over, and he was like, first of all, he didn't want to come off at all because he wanted to score. He was still playing a little bit of semi-professional football, Dino, at the time, and then he's come off and they're all peeing themselves laughing. The Womble's gone on for Dean Holdsworth. Right? Come along. This is absolutely true. He picked me up and then threw me sideways into the dugout, right into Robbie Earl and Alan Court. And if they hadn't caught me, I'd have gone straight through the bleeding dugout. And it was amazing to see that competitive edge. We stuffed Chelsea 5-0.
Did the Womble get the fifth?
No. I think they were kicking him as they went past him and everything. It was brilliant fun. But the next day, Robbie Earl wrote in his column in the Evening Standard, he wrote about, how brilliant the game was and blah, 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 and taking part in community activities. It's a wonderful little piece in the Standard. And right at the end, he said, just, although, it was a charity game and therefore it wasn't really competitive, I just want to put it on the record that Wimbledon won 5-0. They never stopped competing. Most of them can't compete now.
Built into them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go on, Matty.
I just wanted to say, going back to, you mentioned charity games. I played in a charity game at Rains Park a few years back, and Chris Perry was playing.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how good he was. Honestly, he must have been, I don't know how old he is now. I'm 39, so I reckon he's got to be a few years older than me. But at the back, he was just colossal.
Yeah. Really?
I couldn't believe how good his touch was, his passing. Like, he looked like he was still doing it at a level. Like, he was fit as fuck as well. I couldn't believe it.
He's a great lad, Chris Perry. Chris Perry and that lot could still they could turn out in a charity game, no problem.
He's an original Wimbledon boy as well.
He played in the Prem for Wimbledon, didn't he?
He did.
Well, he's born and bred as well. He was literally he was just 2 minutes from the stadium himself.
Absolutely, and the problem with his old man was a fanatical Wimbledon fan. Used to go absolutely everywhere. Before Chris was playing. So great lad, Chris Perry. Got a lot of time for him. Yeah. One of my all-time favourites. He did the best tackle I've ever seen against Arsenal. He tackled Dennis Bergkamp. Dennis Bergkamp was clean through, and like no one anywhere near him. And all of a sudden, he was nicknamed the Rash Chris Perry. He come out of absolutely nowhere. And Cook tackled him, and you could see Bergkamp going, "Where did that come?" It was unbelievable.
Well, funny to say that. I remember another first childhood memory of football. Really, is that '88 Cup final. That's the thing that really sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
I remember when you beat us 1-0 at Highbury, and Vinnie Jones scored this volley. I can't believe how good it was, because it was a massive shock for us to lose that.
We never lost at Highbury for 11 seasons.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it was some goal as well.
That's unreal.
It finished 1-0. I don't know if you remember the goal tell. Go back and watch it after.
That's a brilliant goal.
He's come over and he just smashed this volley. I remember watching it at the time, going, "That wasn't meant to happen." Then he ended up winning, and I was like, "Geez, so fair play."
He used to pull him out of the bag every now and again, Vinny.
Yeah, mate, that
it was some goal.
Yeah.
Incredible. What a geezer. Yeah.
Go on, Greg.
I got the privilege of meeting quite a lot of them. Having played at Wimbledon Little League, every year we would have a player come down and do the presentation.
Yeah.
And, your Robbie Earls, your Marcus Gales, they'd all turn up. And do you know what I mean? You saw from on the telly how mental and that they all were and whatnot. But like, when you could, as a kid, you're looking up at them thinking, "Oh my God, it's so and so." It's so. Do you know what I mean? And they were all just nice as pie. They were brilliant.
Yeah. There was a difference now. I don't think you find many Premier League players like that.
No.
And, they all remember what Little League was like when they were growing up. Whereas nowadays, over half of them didn't grow up in this country, did they? So,
No.
so they wouldn't know anything about Little League or anything that is in our country.
These small little dudes, like, handing out trophies and that, and they were just, they were probably made to come. Like, do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Fair play to them, and they always smiled. I've never met one bad one. Do you know what I mean? Like, they was always happy to be there, and it made our season. The fact that at the end of every season, one of them was there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe one or two.
Yeah, amazing.
But yeah, no, it's brilliant.
So that's a good memory. That I like that. It's a nice one. I mean, Gareth Ainsworth and Neil Ardley were always brilliant at stuff like that. They were fantastic in the community, those guys.
Well, Peter Fear, I remember Peter Fear as well a lot of the time, because he was a Sutton boy, and see him out and about and that, and you'd always Peter, and he'd be like, all right, boy.
He's a legend in his own lifetime, Firo. Great lad. Yeah.
That's class. And I've just got one more sort of thing that I want to pick your brains on before we go, is football stadiums. So there can't be many you haven't been to.
Yeah.
No.
Because obviously Wimbledon were in the, aside from the top clubs that have since built new stadiums and whatever, but even a few of them you would have been to. But is there many that you can think of, that, because it's probably a shorter list to tell me which ones you ain't been to?
Well, I mean, the non-league ones, I've not missed, apart from when I was sick last year, 2 years ago. I went very well for a little while. I missed a few games there, and I missed a few games when I had pneumonia once. Apart from that, since 2002, I've not missed even a game a season. So I've been, I couldn't even dream of adding it all up, to be honest with you. I couldn't dream of adding it all up, but I've been to most of the grounds certainly in southern England, and then most of the grounds up north I've been to in the early days and all of that. Yeah, so there's not many clubs I've not been to at all. Yeah, not many at all. I'll tell you where I've never been. I've never actually been to a game at St James's Park. I never made it there. I was meant to go there when we played them in the cup, and I never made it there. Other than that, who else have I never been to? I never went to Middlesbrough. I reckon that's about it, really. I can't think of anywhere else that I've never been to.
Well, that's what we want then next year in the cup, one of them two, eh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Newcastle. I'm dying to go to Newcastle. It's a great night out in Newcastle after a game, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
That is wicked.
Just a tad.
Oh, my God. Well, we played... where is it? The place over the river there. We played them last game of the season. Last game of the season on the same day as Newcastle won the championship.
Yeah.
So about 200 of us went out in town, and about 30,000 Geordies went out in town. I've never seen so many size 16 squeezed into size 8s in my life. And we had the craziest night out you could imagine. It was utterly bonkers. I disgraced myself that night. I got thrown out of a place that was disgusting. Well, I totally lost the plot. It was fantastic. It was what a night out with all the players and everything, and all the Newcastle boys there. And they know how to have a party up there. They really do.
They love it, don't they? Christ. The only place on earth with 24-hour Gregs, you can't go wrong.
Love that.
But yeah, so going into Saturday, mate, Pompey, fingers crossed we get a point at least, mate, and secure League One survival for the season, and make a good stab at it next year, mate.
I'm sure we will.
I'm sure as well. Thank you so much for coming on, Ivor.
It's been a pleasure, lads.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll have our following as long as I'm about. So yeah, I'll always be looking out for Wimbledon, mate. So
good luck with the podcast and everything. And if you need any help with it or anything like that, give us a shout. If we can help, we'll help. We'd love to.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate that. For everyone who's watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel and slap a like on the video. And on the podcast platforms, rate and review. And yeah, anyone in the local area, next season, once Plough Lane's open, get down there and support your local club. It's something special going on there. So get down there, guys. But yeah, till next time. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Chet.
bro.
Cheers, Ivor.
Take care.
Bye bye. Bye bye.